Have you ever wondered why the most dangerous people are often the quietest in the room? Why the ones who say the least somehow hold the most weight? It's not charisma. It's not charm. It's design. Because while most people overshare, overexplain, and overexpose, the truly powerful operate like smoke, visible, but untouchable. And the moment someone thinks they've figured you out, they've already started building a strategy against you. You're about to see why in this video. We're not just exploring Machiavellian thinking, we're applying it. This isn't philosophy. This is psychological counterintelligence. You'll learn how to dismantle assumptions, stay unreadable, and control perception without saying a word. These are the exact principles Machiavelli used to endure, dominate, and vanish, without ever appearing weak. So if you want to understand how to remain untouchable in a world that feeds on access, stay here, because we're about to start. And it begins with the first principle: emotion is information. Every visible reaction, every smirk, flinch, or sigh, exposes your internal wiring. People read you not to understand, but to store ammunition. Not for now, but for when it hurts. Most display their emotions like proof of authenticity. But Machiavellian strategy demands stillness, not robotic detachment, but precision. Laugh when you choose. Frown without weight. Be the kind of presence manipulators can't decode. Be water, ungraspable. Second, kill assumptions by breaking patterns. Most people are predictable. Insult them, they defend. Praise them, they melt. Ignore them, they chase. Predictability is vulnerability. But if they expect fear, stay calm. If they expect retreat, advance. Disrupt their script, and their control collapses. When they can't map you, they hesitate, and in that hesitation, you gain leverage. Third, if you don't shape your image, others will. People fear what they can't define, so they'll invent stories to fill the gaps. Machiavelli never let reputation drift. You don't need to reveal yourself, you just need to control the version they're allowed to see. Speak less, but with intent. Be composed in chaos. Present, but never fully reachable. Let them wonder. Doubt creates imbalance, and imbalance creates control. Fourth, don't be nice. Be intentional. Niceness is often disguised need, and manipulators smell it instantly. Kindness without direction is weakness. But kindness used with purpose becomes silent force. Be polite if it moves you forward. Stay quiet if it highlights their noise. Help only when it grants leverage. Machiavelli knew the danger of being too good, too clear, too easy to map. When people feel they understand you, they start to test you. They admire you just long enough to calculate your edges, then discard you the moment you lose your mystique. Power isn't earned through likability. It's preserved through opacity. The less you reveal, the harder you are to challenge. And when no one can predict your next move, they stop trying to control you. That's when silence becomes armor, and your absence becomes your sharpest weapon. Every time you reveal yourself to someone unworthy, you give them a map. Even your strengths become liabilities once exposed. So let them guess. While they try to read you, you're already reading them, their fears, their patterns, their emotional leaks. And when it's time to move, you do it without build-up, without noise, just calm, surgical action. You're not here to be understood. You're here to win. Let your face stay unreadable. Let your answers slip through their expectations. Real power isn't intimidation, it's being impossible to decode. This is the essence of endurance. Don't just hide your strategy, make them doubt there is one. You're not withholding for attention. You're protecting your advantage. The world demands openness not to connect, but to exploit. If they know your wounds, they'll press. If they know your hunger, they'll bait you. That's not connection, it's leverage. You're not rejecting intimacy. You're rejecting exposure. Because real connection doesn't need full access. And real power doesn't owe transparency. Another Machiavellian law: blend in, but never belong. Stay among them, talk, laugh, engage, but never let them feel they've touched your core. You're not ice, you're smoke. Seen, but untouchable. Around them, but ungraspable. And when people can't define you, they eventually stop trying, not because you're invisible, but because you've made control impossible. That's when your quietest weapon takes over: ambiguity. Manipulators crave clarity, labels, firm stances, simple answers. But when you give them gray, they falter. Machiavelli knew, whoever keeps others guessing holds the power. If pressed to choose, stay neutral. If pushed for a reaction, ask instead. If rushed for commitment, delay. Their need for certainty turns into anxiety, and their imagination fills the silence. Meanwhile, you remain undefined, unbound, an element they never prepared for. Where most people fail is in trying to fix exposure with overcompensation. Maybe you slipped, showed emotion, cracked the mask. Don't explain. Don't rush to recover. Machiavelli wouldn't hide the crack, he'd distort it. Let them think what they saw was intentional. Say, or maybe that's what I wanted you to think, then say nothing more. You're not denying their perception, you're poisoning its certainty. Turning supposed clarity into confusion. Now they don't trust what they saw. They question their own narrative. And suddenly, you've seized control of the frame. Because real power doesn't erase exposure, it rewrites the meaning of what was seen. If this video made something click, if it stirred a thought, flipped a perspective, or simply made you feel seen, don't let it fade into the scroll. Leave a comment. Like it. Share it with someone who moves like you do. I read everything. Your feedback isn't just appreciated, it's essential. It helps me shape these ideas into something sharper, deeper, and more alive. The more I hear from you, the more I can create what truly cuts through the noise. Study people relentlessly. Watch not what they say, but how they react when praised, ignored, or challenged. Read what's left unsaid, their tone shifts, their pauses, their tells. But remember, the energy flows one way. You observe, but reveal nothing. You ask, but don't answer. You give presence, not access. When they probe, you smile or deflect. You appear open, but remain sealed. This is one-way transparency. They feel close to you, but can't touch you. And here's a tactic few have the discipline to use: calculated disruption. If you've built a calm, unreadable persona, break it, occasionally. Disappear. Get louder. Go silent after warmth. Just enough to remind them, you are still unpredictable. Because even mystery can become familiar, and familiarity breeds boldness. When people stop fearing your silence, shake it. Make them question if they ever knew you at all. Machiavelli didn't seek chaos, he waited in stillness until stillness became a trap. And then he moved. He understood, the goal isn't just to be unreadable. It's to remain a shifting shape, one they can never quite name. And when you master this, you stop justifying. You stop adjusting to be palatable. You become the echo they hear after you've left the room. They'll test you subtly, through flattery, sarcasm, carefully veiled curiosity. But it's not about knowing you. It's about disarming you. The world doesn't crave connection, it craves access. And access is the gateway to control. Machiavelli never gave enough to be held. He let people feel familiar, but never get close. That's the rule: let them know your rhythm, but not your reasons. Your voice, but not your core. Most people collapse here. They mistake being liked for being understood. But once someone understands you, they begin to anticipate you. And once they can predict you, they can prepare for you. That's when you lose your edge. So here's the next principle: speak with warmth, but never expose need. Be seen, but not known. Reveal outlines, never the engine. Let them think they've mapped you, just enough to feel safe. But never enough to touch what's real. Never show desire unless it's already mastered. Laugh, connect, but never uncover the center. Let them admire the surface. The blueprint stays behind glass. Machiavelli's sharpest weapon wasn't words, it was silence. Let them talk. Most people, especially those hungry for control, will reveal themselves if you just stay still. Their need to be impressive leads them into overexposure. They mistake your quiet for weakness. That's the trap. The less you say, the more they assume. And the more they assume, the more they reveal insecurities, contradictions, hidden motives. You don't interrupt. You don't defend. You wait. And when the moment's right, one sentence cuts through everything they built. Machiavelli let others build the fire. He just brought the match. But control doesn't begin with how you're seen, it begins with what you contain. Real restraint isn't about avoiding outbursts. It's about keeping your plans, doubts, and desires internal. You don't explain. You don't perform. You don't bleed in front of strangers. When insulted, you smile. When challenged, you observe. When praised, you downplay. When doubted, you nod. Every time they underestimate you, you gain ground. You don't react, you absorb. And if you strike, it's not to prove anything. It's to finish the game. Now take it further, mislead them on purpose. Let them think you're soft, naive, slow. Let them build a false map of who you are, then lead them straight into the pit they didn't see coming. Don't correct them. Encourage it. And when it matters, switch pace. Move colder, faster, sharper than expected. That's what Machiavelli did best. He let them relax, then dismantled them while they smiled. This requires discipline. Which leads to your greatest weapon, emotional economy. Every glance, every pause, every reply must be intentional, not fake, but measured. In a world desperate to be seen, your silence becomes rare. While others overshare, over-explain, and call it authenticity, you remain reserved, deliberate, controlled. You don't react to noise. You don't announce your plans. You don't narrate your emotions. When asked what's on your mind, you smile and say, nothing important. You're not a book. You're a locked vault with a quiet glow. And the less they know, the more they want. But they never get in. Because you're not here to be understood. You're here to outlast. You burn slowly, silent, deliberate, controlled, so no storm can extinguish you. Your strength isn't in showing power, but in suggesting it. Because what's seen can be measured, and what's measured can be managed. But what's merely implied? That lives in the shadows of the mind, expanding without limits. Mystery holds more force than truth, because truth has an endpoint, mystery doesn't. If you want to be remembered, not just noticed, learn this: the most powerful person in any room is never the loudest, never the most expressive. It's the one who stays unreadable, not out of fear, but because they have no interest in being understood. In a culture obsessed with confession and performance, you gain dominance by choosing discretion. Machiavelli understood this long before social media turned personality into product. He knew real power doesn't perform, it unsettles. It speaks softly, hints instead of declares, and forces others to lean closer, trying to decode what can't be captured. The final stretch of the power perseverance law begins with one of the sharpest tactics, the use of unfinished sentences. When you speak, don't always finish the thought. Say, some people don't realize what's actually happening, then let it hang. Or start with, if I told you what I was working on, it might. and trail off. You're not withholding for dramatic flair, you're planting cognitive tension. An incomplete statement forces the listener to complete it themselves. And when someone finishes a sentence in their own mind, they don't realize it, but they've already stepped into your frame of influence. Their imagination becomes the tool you manipulate. Machiavelli didn't dominate through volume, but through implication. He used silence and gaps in speech the way a painter uses negative space, strategically. The less you reveal, the more others reveal themselves in their effort to fill the void. While they guess and project and reach for your meaning, you're already 10 steps ahead, collecting everything you need to know about them without giving up a single inch of yourself. Then comes the weaponization of calm. True calm is not just about emotional stillness, it's a psychological message. In a conflict, while others escalate and expose their hand, you stay composed. When publicly challenged, you don't flinch, you respond slowly, maybe with a subtle smile, or better yet, a single question. True calm makes others second-guess their own aggression. It shifts the spotlight, not by force, but by stillness. It signals, I'm not reacting because I already understand the ending. That unnerves people more than any argument ever could. Machiavelli preferred to be feared in silence than admired for spectacle. Because when your presence remains composed, detached, and unreadable, you don't merely survive chaos, you control it. And then there's the illusion of closeness. Give people access to your surface, your anecdotes, your humor, your opinions, but never your internal compass. Let them feel like they know you while staying far from who you actually are. They might learn your daily rituals or your taste in music, but they'll never touch your fears, your motives, or your deeper strategy. What they engage with is a projection, crafted, familiar, and utterly hollow beneath the surface. And when they try to use that perceived familiarity for leverage, they find themselves grasping at air. There's no substance to twist, no soft spot to press. You are present, but untouchable. Now sharpen the blade further, never reveal your timeline. Power only becomes dangerous when others can't track its trajectory. Let people think you're drifting, aimless, unmotivated. Let them assume you're behind, that you've stalled, that you're not a threat. That assumption is your shield. While they watch your surface, you work in silence. While they waste time deciphering your pauses, you realign positions in the background. When you strike, it looks like luck, but it's architecture. Because you never moved in straight lines. You moved in misdirection. While others chase momentum publicly, you build inevitability privately. That's not mystery for its own sake, it's power without broadcast. Let them believe you're idle until results arrive with the sound of inevitability. That's the art of making silence look like strength and surprise feel like destiny. And finally, never allow anyone to believe they've figured you out. Not completely. Not ever. Even if you're consistent, change pace. Even if you're warm, maintain distance. Even if they've seen a pattern, disrupt it without warning. Because the second someone feels certainty about who you are, they begin designing responses. And the moment they can plan against you, you are no longer a threat, you're a formula. So unwrite the formula. Stay undefined. Let them search for your shape, your tells, your center, and always leave them just short of reaching it. Because once you're understood, you're predictable. And once you're predictable, you're vulnerable. But if you remain elusive, shifting just enough to confuse yet focused enough to lead, you become not a player in the game, but the terrain itself. If someone starts to believe they've deciphered you, disrupt the equation. Say something out of character. Break a routine they've come to rely on. Compliment the one you usually overlook. Walk a different path, take an unexpected pause, disappear when they expect you to engage. This isn't impulsiveness. It's precision. You're not acting out, you're reconfiguring the narrative. Because the moment someone feels they've mapped you, they begin to soften. That comfort lowers their guard. And that comfort is your opening. Machiavelli understood, predictability is permission. When people know what you'll do, they begin preparing for it, manipulating it, exploiting it. But when your pattern remains fluid, just unstable enough to keep them reaching, you become immune to their calculation. They can't betray what they don't fully grasp. Uncertainty breeds caution, and caution creates distance. His most ruthless principle? True power, the kind that endures, is invisible. If they can't trace your thoughts, if they don't know your ambitions, your pressure points, your limits, then they can't control or destroy you. They can't defame what isn't defined. They can't manipulate what doesn't show its edges. They can't dismantle what was never submitted for approval. You become vapor in a sealed room. Always present, always slipping through the seams. Unreachable, unprovable, untouched. You don't tower above them. You surround them. So let them keep watching. Let them study your silences, map your gestures, and convince themselves they've cracked your design. Let them believe you're soft, passive, predictable, because that's when they relax. And that's when you become most dangerous. You don't need to defend your depth to shallow minds. You don't need to prove strength to those addicted to noise. Because the most terrifying force in any room isn't the one shouting for power, it's the one who already holds it, quietly. They won't notice your moves, only the consequences. They won't understand what changed, only that it did. Because by the time they realize they misread you, they're already operating inside a world you built around them. That's what happens when you stop being readable and start becoming inevitable. Your absence becomes heavy. Your silence becomes memory. And your presence? Unmatched, because it was never fully offered. You're not here to be known. You're here to be felt. Not seen. Not explained. Not claimed. Just remembered, with attention they can't name. And a loss they'll never quite recover from.